Thank you. Good evening and welcome to our December 2nd, 2021 school board meeting. We'll begin with the call to order. I would ask board members to just announce your name, not the community that you're from, because we represent the entire district and it isn't important where we're from. It's important that we're here. So I'll start tonight with Jim.
Jim Lockridge.
Diane Potter.
Alyssa Tracy.
Lynn Marshall. Tony Beat.
Becky Fless. Veronica Babcock.
Patrick Saucier.
Sophia Matthews. Nicole Medora.
And Ross.
Madeline Bridge.
Teresa Guerrero.
Thank you. Administrative staff.
Pat Hopkins, Superintendent. Andrea Dish, Business Manager. Terry McGuire, Director of Technology. Angela Hardy, Director of Curriculum.
Josh Farr, Director of Adult Education.
Christina O'Neill, Building Principal at Pittston Randolph Consolidated School.
Sarah Sims, Principal, Gardner Regional Middle School.
Nate Sliver, Athletic Director.
Vicki Duque, Principal, Riverview Community School. Katie Gould, Principal at Helen Thompson School.
Let's stand please for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready. Public comment. We're going to limit it as we do each month to 2 minutes. I would ask that it's respectful. Remember that it's not a dialogue. This is, you stand, I'll thank you for being here. The board appreciates you all being here. But we're not prepared to answer questions necessarily. And so it's not a dialogue. We're just listening. And I'll try and thank each of you. We have some folks here tonight that need to leave in order to get to the middle school play. And so I would like to offer that they speak first, and then we will hear from the rest of the public in attendance that wishes to speak. Again, it's 2 minutes. And Jim, I'm wondering if you'll be the timekeeper, because you're good.
I'm the bad guy.
Well, somebody has to be.
I gotta turn my phone back on. Go ahead, I'll watch the clock up there.
Okay, I'd be happy to go first. Thank you for letting me do that. I'm Denise Rendernecht. For those of you who don't know me, I usually don't talk about my education, but I think it's important in this setting. I got my medical degree from Dartmouth, did my postdoc degree in medical education at USC. I think we all actually want the same thing. I would love for my kid to never have needed a mask, but here we are. And I think we all eventually want our kids out of masks when the time is right. The goal for the year, my understanding was butts and seats, and the middle school was closed for almost 2 weeks, including part of last week because of the COVID outbreak. So part of me can't believe that we're even having a discussion about stopping masking at this point in time. It was terribly hard for my son to be home and not with his friends. He would much rather be in school with a mask than at home doing school on a computer. The kids are used to masks now. They get out of the car with the mask on. They get all the way to the car with the mask on. The worst time, in my opinion, to stop masking would be right now before the holidays. It puts everyone, including grandparents and at-risk relatives, at a much higher risk. Scientifically, it makes sense to wait at least 2 weeks after the holiday break and see what the numbers are doing. You'll be able to see what the statewide and local numbers are. They're going to go up. It's a matter of when they come down again, and it could be weeks or it could be longer. We should also have a lot more information about Omicron by then. People also need to understand when the decision is made to unmask, it's not a statement that we will never need to mask again. We now live in a world with mutations. If you choose to unmask our kids now heading into respiratory season with flu and RSV hitting the state early this year, and our COVID rates up, the probability of having to reinstitute a mask mandate approximates 100%. And I think that will be far harder than anything that is happening tonight to try and reinstitute a mask mandate.
15 seconds.
Okay. I guess my bottom line is I would encourage you to keep your focus on what still needs to be the goal, which is butts and seats. We will get to the time when it's okay to stop masking. That time is just not yet.
Finish your thought.
All right, thank you.
Denise, thank you. Any others that need to leave to go to the play? Oh, okay, well then, next, your hand was up, go right ahead. And please state your name.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Humbry. I am from Pittston. I have a student at Pittston Elementary School, and I also have a student at the high school, and I am a special education teacher in a local school district. And I just wanted to share that I work with kids every day that wear masks. You'd be amazed at how amazing they are at it. I probably touch my nose 100 times a day because their little noses slide down, but they do great. And they are in school and they are learning. And I can say that over the course of the last few months, as I watched most of these meetings, one, I've heard some pretty awful things said to all of you. And I just want to say, I appreciate the hard work that you've all done. It's difficult, and I know you have our kids' best interest at heart. Many of you have mentioned the comments, or many times the comment has been mentioned that statistics are low, it doesn't affect kids. And many of you know that my daughter died in a car accident a few years ago. I can tell you that when that statistic is your child, it doesn't matter. Because I've been that statistic. Her statistic was 0.0001, a lot less than COVID. Didn't matter. So until we know what this variant's going to do, I urge you to please keep our kids in masks. It keeps them in school. My kids do not do well with remote learning. And they want to be out of masks. We'll want that. I just would like to see us do it in a responsible way. And I hope that we can do that soon. But I would urge you to at least wait a few weeks after the Christmas break and
15 seconds.
to find out what happens with this new variant. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next.
I dropped off to Pat some statements from the middle schoolers that they asked that I share with you. Some quotes that they wrote them. We shared a document and they wrote them. And then I also dropped off a scientific study that I felt like summarized things fairly well. It was an analysis of multiple articles, but it was a short read versus something very lengthy like most studies. My name is Marla Morgan, and I've lived in Gardner since 1998. I have a child who attended the Gardner school system and am presently employed by MSAD11 as an educational technician in the Reach Gifted and Talented program. While we may not agree about the science behind COVID, if vaccination should be mandated or not, but the reality is staff and students are getting sick. What is clear is that masking minimizes and reduces the spread of the virus. Multiple scientific studies support this statement. Masking keeps us in schools. Without masks, schools would be fully remote, as we just saw at the middle school. There is no choice but to go red when staff and students' safety are at risk due to sickness or lack of bodies for proper student supervision. Are we all tired of the virus? Yes. Are we tired of the masking? Yes. Would we rather not be wearing them? Yes. But the question I want to ask is it worth losing the life of a child or a staff member? And my answer will be forever no. If we can reduce the risk by masking, why would we choose otherwise? I travel to almost all the schools in the districts, and I'm going to tell you that I have not heard one student complaining about wearing a mask. From elementary schools to the middle school to the high school, students wear masks without complaint because they want to be in school in person. As a district, we should always support the precautionary principle. This principle states, and I quote, "When human activities may lead to morally unacceptable harm that is scientifically plausible, but uncertain. Actions shall be taken to avoid or diminish harm. I thank you for your time, and I will submit what I've written to you in its entirety because I wasn't able to get through it all in my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. You'll just mail it to the school board?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Next.
My name is Andrea Cram, and I am a math teacher on Team Allagash at the middle school. I am here this evening to urge you to please keep the mask mandate in place for all MSAD11 schools until the experts at the CDC deem that it's safe to remove them. As a parent of 3 boys, I can totally understand the rationale for wanting to lift the mask mandate. Our kids don't wear masks outside of school, so why should they have to wear them in school? Well, let me paint you a picture. On Team Allagash, we have 68 students. These students sit in classrooms that have an average seating space of 356 square feet. They are in these classrooms with an average of 17 peers who sit 1.5 to 3 feet apart for an average of 55 minutes for at least 5 out of their 6 periods a day. During transitions, we have all 68 students and any students coming in and out of STEM in a hallway that is 7 feet wide. So you can imagine that social distancing is near impossible. Lunch and recess, we do our best to keep students safe and socially distanced, especially while eating with their masks off, 6 feet apart facing the same direction. Our students are in the building for 6 hours and 40 minutes as socially distanced as we can make them. And this is just a picture of one of the 6 wings in our building. If you vote to lift the universal mask mandate, you are essentially voting to move to remote learning. As I'm sure you are all aware, remote learning does not work for at least 90% of our students. I can guarantee that if you were to poll our students and ask them if they would rather be masked and in person or remote, a large majority would vote to remain in person and masked. You see, for the most part, masking isn't a student issue, it's a parent issue. Am I tired of wearing masks? Yes. However, I would rather wear a mask and teach your children in person than not to mask and end up having to teach them remotely. This week, after 2 days of reviewing what I tried teaching remotely, my 7th graders expressed how much easier it was to learn and understand when they're in person. When our students are remote, most of them have their cameras off or on, and I see the ceilings of your homes, they're very nice, by the way, and hardly participate in class discussions, let alone ask questions.
15 seconds.
Yet when we're in person, more students engage with the content, ask questions, and collaborate with their peers. I'm here tonight to implore you to vote to keep the mask mandate in place. It is necessary not only for the safety of all the people in your buildings, but also in the best interest of students and their learning. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. That was so speedily done. Yikes.
I omitted a lot.
Well done.
Thank you.
Diana Dion Meringue. I don't think I need to introduce myself. I think some of us have met before. I have 3 things I want to share. First, a reminder that you are a public elected official and that you have constituents, right? We have a big district that you represent. And we have approximately maybe 2,400 people, including kids, within the parameters of our district. And I just want you to keep an open mind, whatever decisions that you make, how is that going to impact everybody else in those numbers? Second, the word science means knowledge. It comes from Latin, ancient world. And it was basically people talking about what's going on, how does this work? Can we observe nature, breaking things down? And we have had issues with people interpreting science and the results of anything that's been studied with the community, medical community that we have now. We have a lot of people that are basically thinking they're super experts. And I think with COVID changing the way it is, it's never going to be stable until we get this thing settled. We don't know what the future is going to be. We have no clue. So the mask right now is making a difference. It's making a huge difference. I don't want to wear a mask, get it all spitting there. Who wants that? But I have to tell you that kids are in school. We just had 7 days of remote learning. And I tell you, all the feelings I went through last year came right back. It was as if nothing had changed. So keep in mind, number one, parents work, they don't want to go home. Number 2, these kids need social. They need to be around their friends, their peers. They need to hang out. They need to go out to
15 seconds.
recess. So just be aware that the needs of the kids should come first, but safety on top of that. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't know you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gardner Regional Middle School,
Okay, thank you.
ELA.
Diana, did you say your name?
I basically did.
She's Diana Dion Meringue.
Yeah.
She's been here since forever. You only taught some of the people here at the table. Is that true? You're 52?
Yeah, so I'm year 52 of working in this district.
I just don't know everybody. Fine. Next, who would like to, is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Oh, I would. I'm not going to be as well spoken as anybody else, but
Okay.
I do have something I need to say. It's not at all what I prepared to speak about, but in light of the information that we've been given by some of the teachers, I would like to just put my 2 cents worth in. Take it or leave it. We've had COVID. My family has had COVID. And it is my understanding that the CDC released a statement stating that they have not one documented case of a person who has had COVID and recovered, spreading it to anybody else. So I don't know why nobody's talking about this, but it needs to become part of the discussion. We had quarantine because we had a close contact. We tested twice, 12 days apart. Everybody in my house was negative. My kids missed 3 weeks of school and went down 20 grade points because of it. And I'm done with that. We're not quarantining again. We won't do it. I won't do it. I will lie because I won't put my kids through that again. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
What's your name, ma'am?
Cindy Gardner.
My name is Josh Holmes. Didn't really put much thought into what I was going to say tonight, but I did want to echo the voice of opposition to the educated folks in the class that are promoting wearing of the mask. I would like to point out that children have died from the flu way before COVID-19 has occurred, and we did no masking then. It's a fact of life that children will die. Whether you wear a mask or not is still going to happen. I don't think we need to let our emotions confuse the science. And before the coronavirus was such a big deal in 2015, there was a study that talked about masking and how it was a threat to the health of healthcare workers. Medical masks versus cloth masks. There's a lot of different information available right at our fingertips. I would like to point out that I believe that masking can cause physiological harm, limits oxygen, retains carbon dioxide, makes breathing difficult, causes psychological harm, and causes numerous other adverse pathophysiological consequences, included but not limited to headaches, excessive fatigue, chronic breathing problems. And that is shown in this study. I don't have a way to share it with you other than to give you the title of it.
15 seconds.
2015 study that was titled "A Cluster Randomized Trial Cloth Mask Compared with Medical Masks in Healthcare Workers." Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Josh.
My name is Lindsay Sorois, and I have 2 girls at Pittston and 1 daughter at the high school. I'd like to elaborate on a couple of comments that people had made tonight about how adaptable children are to masking, because I do not believe that that is an accurate statement at all. I know from my children, they are not adapting to masking at all. They have a very hard time with it. And sometimes they come home and say that, you know, they've had to talk to their teacher several times, or they've had to have extended mask breaks down at the nurse's office. Or the other day, my youngest daughter came home and said she had a nosebleed in her mask. That's disgusting. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if it was the mask that caused the nosebleed, but regardless, she wore her bloody mask all day. I mean, that's insane to me. It's disgusting. And I find it interesting, especially Becky Flass says that she's making the decisions to mask our children based on what's best for all of the children. Well, I can tell you right now, you're not taking my 3 children into an account. You're not taking anybody else's children, any parents that are here and their children into account. So anybody who votes for masking tonight, just know that you're not making that decision based on all the children in the community. You're making that decision based on what you think. And that's not your job. Your job is to do what's best for everyone. I think it would be very effective if we had an open forum where you
15
all sit up
seconds.
there and all the parents come in and we can have a respectful discussion. They can raise their hand, ask a question to any of the board members or whoever wants to answer. If you're not able to answer this question, then I'd like for you to find the answer to
Hands
this
up.
question. And if you're not willing to find that answer, then you do not deserve a seat that you're in at all. And when it's time for you to be voted out, we
Time's
will
up.
vote you out. And you will be gone and you will no longer have the power that you
Ma'am,
have.
time's up,
Susie, you're all
Yes,
done,
I heard you.
please.
so you need to step down. Thank you, Lindsay.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Based on, I have 3 kids in 3 different schools in the district. I know we hear the other side of, yes, we want our kids in masks. That's fine. We don't care if you want your kid in a mask, send them in a mask. We don't care. Just stop doing this to our kids. We've been told over and over again that this masking policy was put in place to keep our kids from having to quarantine. The day after our last meeting, my daughter was sent home on quarantine for a week. When she was supposed to go back to school, the school completely shut down. She just returned back to school on Monday of this week from the last board meeting. So why are we smothering our kids again? Also, the last meeting, at the 2-hour and 35-second mark, the chair said on masking, quote, "I have not made up my mind before I come in the room," end quote. However, 6 days prior, on a public social media account, she said, quote, "If he doesn't want kids to wear masks, he can homeschool them," referring to a doctor who doesn't want his kids in mask clothing. So on November 4th, the chair of this board lied right to everyone's faces. You also said you're a public servant. Well, not to this public on the front row. You are not a servant to our children. You don't even want our kids in the same building as you. So, and you don't think that school boards should answer to parents, which also part of the social media. But who is voting? Parents are. So hopefully they will take that into consideration.
Thank you.
I'm Ashley Marsh. I live in Gardner. I had something I wanted to say, but I'm going to kind of go off a little bit, feeding off from what Ariel said earlier. I understand that a lot of people are comfortable with their kids being a mask. Kids want to be in school. They think it's the best thing. But I have a 4-year-old in pre-K who is having a very hard time sounding out words, learning his letters, and it's a mask. You can ask his teachers and they will tell you. They have to pull him into a corner to hear his voice. If he needs to go to the bathroom, he's having accidents. How are these kids communicating? You know, like I get people want masks, but that's how they do it. You want to wear a mask? Do it. If you want to vaccinate, do it. But don't imply that everybody else needs to do it. It's not what's best for everyone. One size does not fit all. I think everybody needs to take a look at people on the board, how they're communicating out in the public. Because if you read the handbook, there's a lot of things that are not being followed. And all you have to do is just do a quick search of people's names and you're going to find what you want to find. And I'm not going to bring it up. Everybody can do it on their own, but just do it for yourself. Just please, because there's a lot of things that just don't align with what's being said in this room and what we're being told. So just do your research, I guess, is all I have to say. And consider everybody, not just the people who want to keep them outside, because that's not how this should be working at all. It should be a parent's choice. I take care of my kids at home. Nobody does that. I put a roof over their head, food in their bellies. That's my responsibility. So it should be my choice to put a mask on their face, especially when they're coming home soaked.
15
It
seconds.
doesn't make sense. That's not healthy. There's just.
Next.
My name is Christina Hobbs, and this is so important to me that I came with all three of my kids because my husband's busy right now. We need to stop looking at the masks as one issue. There's more issues than just the virus. My oldest needs facial expressions to get his whole education. He's missing out and being disadvantaged because he can't see facial expressions. That's not fair to him. He already has enough issues in trying to learn than to have something else that's blocking it. And even if I choose to send him without a mask, that's not helping him with everybody else, his teachers and whatnot. When we first started this whole pandemic, the option was for a face shield with the doctor's note. I did that, but it doesn't help because the teacher can't wear a face shield. She can't get it, and that's a problem. So if we want to have face coverings, at least allow face shields so that it can help with their learning. That would help with the little kids that can't talk through the masks. That would eliminate the problem with the snot and everything being trapped in their face masks. If we could allow for that choice, at least. And it would also allow with the breathing issues with asthma. And it would just give that barrier. It's not the same as these face masks, but at the same time, they don't all fit the same to the kids. Some have got some very thin ones, some have got thick ones, some have got gaps on all sides of them. So the face masks aren't even working all the same for all the kids.
15 seconds.
So we need to look at this bigger. There's health issues, there's learning issues. It needs to be more than just the virus. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Are you allowed to speak twice or no?
We don't typically do twice. Pat, what do you? Choice is yours. Sure.
Yeah, all right. 2 minutes goes by pretty quickly.
Doesn't it?
I just felt like sharing a couple of reminders. It was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That was how long ago? And then we're concerned because there's mutations, right? There's all these mutations. I think that your decision that you come to tonight is going to really come down to, are we going to constantly wear masks or not? If coronavirus was eliminated tonight, you still have health risks out there. So why should we treat health risks differently with other viruses than we do with the coronavirus? So going down this road, even if coronavirus is wiped out, you're still going to have health risks to children. But really, it comes down to, do you want to forever have masks forever? Or do you want to just eliminate it and allow for our God-given ability to fight disease? And by the way, if the masks work, great. Then you should have no problem wearing yours and letting other people not wear theirs. Just like if the virus works, great. It works for you as an individual. It has never and will never stop transmission of the virus. So if you want to get vaccinated, that's good. Good for you. Go and get it. We should never be forcing others to do safety measures that are for ourselves as an individual. Just my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm dying to pull this down, but my name is Melanie Littlefield-Hickey and I'm from West Gardner. I just have a few questions. I respect whatever you guys vote on. I know it's just for the safety. You guys do what's best for the students and I will trust you guys with that. I've had a question as far as, like, I know there's COVID funding and I'm wondering why they just don't have in the classroom those plastic things where you sit at your desk so you could take down your thing, right? You know what I'm talking about? And then that way, you smile, because it's human, it's that human component. And that way the kids could look at each other, smile, and I know there's funding that the school receives. And I don't know if that was like explored at all, because I think that would be a great, still do your mask, but when you're sitting in your class, take your mask down, you can have your snack. And you're safe, you're not, you gonna sneeze, it's gonna go in your little window, and I just think that's, if it hasn't been explored, I think if this is gonna be something that's gonna be ongoing, that might be something to look into. And they're relatively inexpensive. I had done some research myself, and I just think, a smile, we're missing that, it makes us, the mask makes us all the same, and we're not all the same. So I think I'd like you guys to consider that if that hasn't been thought of. Okay.
Thank you, Melanie.
Evening, folks. So I'm often watching y'all from YouTube at home. My name is Erica Clark. I have a daughter who actually used to go to Helen Thompson, and now she goes to a Riverview community. So my daughter is going to be 9 years old. Her eval was finally completed. It explains a lot as to why she's had so many issues. And I know that Madeline is not alone. As myself, I have heart problems. I have a letter from my doctor, yet I'm still mandated to wear it because my own doctor will not accept his own letter. We have problems with our kids. And it's heartbreaking watching how nauseous they get. The fiddling, where sometimes they get in trouble for the compulsive touching because it's on their face. Another concern is, what are we going to do with masks in winter time and you want the windows down? I think we need to look at the entire picture. Again, I'm not a public speaker. It's gut-wrenching, honestly, watching it from home. I break out in hives watching what it does to my child. And to watch her go through it and not even understand it. And yes, she has actually said that she would like to be home where she doesn't have to have this on her face and she can still have freedom to play at the park without it on her face. We can have socialization outside of school and we can still take care of all of our kids. As long as we're diligent. If you want a mask, again, by all means, feel free. If you want to vaccinate, feel free. But, just to kind of put it into perspective again is, I have a letter from my physician. I'm awaiting a heart surgery and my letter does not matter. And there's a lot of kids who have problems, who cannot get medical exemptions, let alone for their immunizations, as if 798 wasn't too far. Thank you.
Thank you.
The board has also received numerous communications, so I have some of those to read. First, there was one communication that came in this afternoon that really isn't about masks, but there was someone who would the board meeting tonight, but unable to be here. And he wanted to, it was Bryden Haskell. He wanted to inquire about the results of the email text survey sent out asking about the COVID vaccination clinic. Wanted to know why the option to opt out of the clinic was the last option and a different size text. So small you almost couldn't even read it. As a parent, that made myself and others uncomfortable, knowing it was probably intention to swag parents not to choose that option. And he was hoping to have his email read and publicly answered. That has already been addressed by Terry. That was not something that was intentional. It was, we don't know why it happened, but that's already been addressed with Mr. Haskell.
When was that addressed? I didn't hear it.
Today with Terry McGuire. She addressed
before
it
the meeting.
directly with him, yes. So it's
Okay.
already been addressed with him. Received an email from Jeffrey Campbell. I am quite saddened to see that we are still requiring our kids, our grandkids in our case, to wear masks. There is no science behind wearing anything short of an N95 or better mask, yet still kids are forced to wear masks. MSAD11 is doing this solely to protect themselves, CYA, from liability under the guise of keep kids in school. I am sure in light of today's announcements, as well as Omicron, is reinforcing your efforts to mask up when we know it makes very little, if any, difference. I learned today that my granddaughter, who has the sniffles, will likely not be allowed back in school without a test, or while our insurance has provided us with very professional at-home tests, those are not acceptable. Why is that? My other granddaughter is sad and lonely as she is being stifled behind a mask and hardly able to socialize with classmates. What's going on in gymnasiums is as ridiculous as the rest of it. Making kids and spectators mask up to quell everyone's fears. School systems are broken enough. See Oxford, Missouri. No need to continue to make it worse by following these overarching protocols. Promoting the vaccine at every opportunity to kids is dangerous. If something happens to a student as a result of the vaccine, MSAD11 will be found culpable. You're also sending a negative message to students and placing a stigma on those who don't get the shot. In the end, I hope you can apologize for putting kids, parents, and teachers through all of this, when in actuality, it should be treated as any other cold, flu, i.e. you're sick, stay home. Stick to teaching our kids and not regulating their healthcare or damaging the mental health. Let them breathe, let them play. That was the one email that the board received that was in opposition to mask. Other than that, the board received 53 emails from staff in support of the universal mask mandate. I am not going to sit here tonight and read all 53 of these emails. We would be here for a very long time. But it is my understanding that the emails from staff are in response to the association's position to continue following the CDC recommended guidelines for masking that was communicated to the board last month. So I just want to make it clear that this is not in response to the administration. There was no initiation. This is being put forth by the association. But due to the volume of emails, I am not going to read, as I said, every single one. However, I will read the name of every person who submitted an email to the board, and I've taken just snippets of the comments from various staff to give the board and the public a comprehensive overview of their opinions. And then, as I said, anyone who would like to read all of these, they're welcome to do so. They will be in the central office. People can call, make an appointment, and you're welcome to come and read all of them. So we received emails, or board members received emails from Jeffrey Tripp, middle school teacher, Brenda Lawrence, middle school administrative assistant, Dean Hall, middle school teacher and GTA co-president, Sean Vanjoy, middle school teacher, Stephanie Nadeau, elementary teacher, Cassandra Dyer, the STEPS program teacher, Sarah Kaplan, middle school teacher, Jim Burke, elementary school counselor, Susan Williamson, middle school teacher, Dottie Hinckley, transportation administrative assistant, Melissa Cheeseman, high school teacher, Jennifer Vermicki, high school teacher, Susan Oakland, middle school counselor, Randy Wing, high school teacher, Dennis Haggerty, middle school teacher, Linda Champa, elementary teacher, Kim Backus, high school teacher, Jennifer Boudreau, high school teacher, Kim Corian, middle school teacher, Troy Gray, middle school teacher, Kelly Patrick, elementary teacher, Angela Smith, middle school teacher, Callie Hopkins, middle school teacher, Stephanie Dixon, middle school teacher, Amy Schnur, middle school teacher, Drew Riddle, middle school teacher, Michael Dennett, middle school teacher, Cynthia Snow, elementary teacher, Kim O'Brien, elementary teacher, Eleanor Lucan, elementary teacher, Hope St. Dennis, middle school teacher, Maria Terrio, elementary teacher, Karen Beckler, middle school teacher, Patricia Morris, high school teacher, Lori Clary, an elementary teacher, Kristen Peralt, an elementary teacher, Ken Estabrook, elementary teacher, Taryn Peasley, a high school teacher, Alan U. Snukas, high school teacher and GTA co-president, Russ Anderson, a middle school teacher, Penny Inman, elementary literacy specialist, Cheryl Lucan, elementary literacy specialist, Liz Frainhagen, the middle school teacher, Megan Gibson, high school teacher, Joan Turtelot, elementary school counselor, Deborah Butterfield, high school librarian, Kathy Damon, elementary teacher, Tracy McNaughton, ELL teacher, Lori Gingras, high school teacher, Heidi Bernier, middle school teacher, Ari Baus, middle school social worker, Juliet Shiguri, elementary teacher, and Nancy Machino, an educational technician. So I have a lot, but this in no way covers everything that was said. So I am writing in support of the mask mandate and MSAD11 until the CDC experts advise that it is safe to remove masks. As a first grade teacher, I continue to do everything in my power to keep my students safe. My students seem to take wearing masks in stride. They are cooperative and understand the importance of these protocols. I truly hope you will vote in favor of keeping our mask mandate until it is safe to remove them. If it is our goal as a district to keep kids in school, why would we even consider giving people the choice to mask or not? Correct me if I'm wrong, but if people mask up, we need to maintain a 3-foot distancing to avoid quarantine, or if we don't mask up, we need to maintain 6 feet distance. Is this still the rule? How on earth would we maintain a 6-foot distance in classroom with 22 to 25 students? That's just not mathematically possible. The current low number of substitutes is a huge stressor for staff. Staff members often have to cover for coworkers, and the infection rate amongst staff members at school is relatively low. Take away the masking requirement, even more staff will need to be out due to any kind of illness and will increase the need for coverage. Without the availability for coverage, more than likely we will be forced to go red. Students learn better in person, where they can have discussions with their peers as well as their teachers. Teachers are able to walk around the room to check on student progress and to offer assistance as necessary. Without masks, more students will be quarantined, and those students will not get the full experience of quality discussions with their peers and teachers. Vaccinations, mask mandates, and pool testing are the best way for schools to navigate the pandemic. In-person schooling is critical to our kids' academic, social, emotional, and behavioral growth. Taking masks away and undoubtedly going remote as a result would take away those opportunities for growth that help our kids develop into wonderful, successful young adults that they are capable of becoming. As a teacher, I would not feel safe coming into work if we were to stop the mask mandate. The CDC still recommends we wear masks in school. The idea of going against science and what is recommended in order to protect us is crazy. I hate wearing these masks. My throat hurts daily from having to speak up so much. I hate having to ask students to repeat themselves. My face sweats and gets irritated under the mask. However, I care for my students. I will do whatever it takes to keep them safe, including wearing this mask. Do not lift the mask mandate, nor give credence to anti-vaxxers or maskers. Follow science, follow critical thinking, and follow the facts. Overall, my 4th grade students are actually great about masks. We take mask breaks 4 times a day, and the students love these breaks. They act as transitions between subjects, and honestly, I will keep them when someday masks are a thing of the past. Often I have to remind students to take their masks off once outside. They're so used to wearing them, and some leave them on anyway, now that it's getting colder. I have 2 students that I have to regularly remind to pull their masks above their nose. Otherwise, I promise you, it is a non-issue day to day. I will be the first to admit that I don't like wearing masks, and the constant reminder to students to wear them correctly has gotten old. However, I feel this is still the best defense against a mass outbreak. Despite the annoyance of wearing a mask, if the experts still recommend that this is the one of the safety measures to avoid transmission, then I feel it should be in place. The middle school has been hit hard many times. Removing the wearing of masks can lead to more quarantines and increase the chances of transmission. I ask you to please be sure that the decision you make is based not on emotion or public pressure, but rather on the most current suggested practices of epidemiologists that were trained their entire lives for this type of situation. FYI, I cannot make this up if I tried. I was about to send this email and was interrupted by the news that my youngest daughter, 10 years old in this district, must quarantine again for the 4th time. If we lift this mask mandate, will quarantines become even more abundant? Will we need to stay further apart? Will we end up teaching remotely more often? Much to consider. So far this year, several of my students have tested positive for the COVID virus. As a result, an even larger number who had close contact with them had to quarantine at home. Overall, 31 of my 88 students have been in quarantine this year, a few of them twice. They have already missed a combined of 239 days of in-person instruction, and we are barely a third of the way through the school year. One of the painful lessons I learned last year is that remote learning is not good for most students. When high school students are not in school, they are less engaged with classes, if they log in at all. They often fail to complete assignments and do lesser quality work on those they do finish. Once behind, many struggle, excuse me, and even find it impossible to catch back up. For too many adolescents, a lack of access to in-person instruction is toxic to learning. It is also damaging to social and emotional well-being. Even a third of the way through this fully reopened school year, it is still easy to see that students haven't completely recovered from what they lost last year on that front. This is the primary reason we all feel so strongly about reopening schools on a full-time basis this year. I see many students from many classrooms and of many ages. I am asking for the safety and care of us all that the mask mandate continues. There are too many cases occurring in our state at this time and so many young children coming down with the illness. I understand that many young children do not become severely ill, but at HT, we have had several students who have delicate immune systems who potentially could become severely sick if they contract this virus. They still deserve the freedom to come to school, and this will make it so they are safe and protected. I urge the board to do the right thing and listen to the professionals and the CDC guiding us through the pandemic. Students must remain masked. If the mask mandate is revoked, we can be certain that the following will happen. We will be forced to function in red more frequently. Staff discontentment will rise exponentially. The board will be in a position of hiring staff in a tight labor market mid-school year. I am writing to strongly encourage you to continue the mask mandate and MSAD11. Students, teachers, and school staff have the right to come to learn, to teach, to work in an environment where every possible safety measure is being taken during the worldwide pandemic. Although we are all exhausted when it comes to COVID-19 and precautions, we can't allow this to push us into the poor decision-making of reducing those safety measures. As someone who is at a high risk for complications, I am doing my best to keep myself and my family safe, as well as my students. It is extremely stressful and difficult to teach hybrid or remote. The number of families who are having to quarantine is increasing lately, and I don't want to lose any more to quarantine. My students are well adjusted to the masks now, and if we have to go back and forth because the infections increase, I think that will cause more problems. I have been proud of my students and colleagues and are effective in our collective efforts to manage this pandemic crisis with minimal impact to education this year. Please help keep us in school. I'm almost there. Sorry. Sorry, there was so much. And I was trying to make sure that the staff felt like their positions were being appropriately and adequately shared publicly. I am writing to strongly encourage you to continue the mask mandate at MSAD11. All of us in school, students, teachers, custodians, nutrition, administration, etc., have the right to come to school each day to work in an environment where we feel safe and where all data-driven safety precautions are in place. No one likes wearing masks, but there is scientific proof and data to show that this is an effective way of limiting the impact of the spread of COVID-19. Many students remain unvaccinated. Additionally, many of us who are vaccinated are required to work in this environment while we have very young, vulnerable children at home who are not old enough to be protected, along with the caring for elderly family members who rely on us to stay healthy. In light of the recent variant, please do your part to keep everyone safe and help us maintain our ability to educate our children. The mask mandate is important for myself, for my staff, as we work extremely close with our students. The students in my room require a lot of hand-over-hand and hands-on learning, which means my staff and myself are in close contact with students. The mask mandate is important for our health and safety in school. Wearing masks in our buildings help to alleviate stress and anxiety for staff and students who have personal and family concerns regarding health issues. Even for those who don't have personal concerns regarding safety, the unity expressed in continuing the mandate demonstrates to our students that we are a connected community committed to supporting each other, even when it requires personal sacrifice. In traveling between two schools, I am seeing entire classes quarantined, as well as classes with very small amount of students present due to individuals having to quarantine. Please allow us to continue to teach and support our students in person by upholding the district's mask mandate. And the last one that I have is the emergence of the Omicron variant and the fact that most of the students in our elementary schools are not yet fully vaccinated are additional reasons why unmasking is not safe at this time.
I have a question. I don't know if you take questions. It's my first time. I'm sorry.
We don't take questions, but thank you. Do you want to send an email with the question? It can be answered that way.
Okay. I haven't heard any opposition from other than staff. Other than staff? Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I think we're ready to move along. Okay. Review and approval of the agenda minutes, prioritization of items, and alteration to the established agenda format sequence as needed.
Yeah, I just have a couple small little changes, nothing significant. Under recognition and celebrations, I'd like to add a B. I'm going to reach out to Sarah Sims and have her give you a brief update on the middle school End to Hunger initiative that they're doing. That's going to be exciting.
Yes.
And then under committee reports, under Dropout Prevention Committee and Finance Committee, both of them said unavailable at posting were the minutes, but the minutes are now in your folders and they have been widely distributed. Those are the only changes that I have at this time. Okay.
So motion to approve the agenda as altered.
So moved.
Moved by Tony, second by Matt. Questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries. Approval of the agenda. You just did that. We did that. You might go down one more line. Approval of minutes of previous meetings, regular board meeting of November 4th, 2021. So moved. Moved by Alyssa, second by Jim. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Recognition and celebration.
Yeah, we have two tonight that we would like to share with you. The first one is Eva Adams. We want to highlight that a big congratulations goes out to Eva Adams, who is a third grade student at the Riverview Community School, and she has been selected to have her artwork chosen to hang in the Augusta Capitol Complex from February to May to highlight Youth Art Month. Youth Art Month is a national movement organized by the National Art Educator Association, and each state can participate. Maine's art show is being organized by the Maine Education Association and the Maine Art Education Association. Youth Art Month usually takes place in the month of March and includes grades K through 12. The program provides a medium for recognizing skills developed through visual arts experiences that focus on problem solving, creativity, observation, and communication. Art educators who are a member of both the MEA and the MAEA are able to select one student from their school. Only 30 slots were available across the state of Maine, and Ava was chosen by her teacher, Ms. Carlson, who was an art teacher at Riverview, because Ava's work ethic and drawing project exemplified the above skills that I mentioned. So just like to congratulate Ava for that recognition.
I just messaged her mother to tell her you added that, because she's a fellow Girl Scout. She was excited to hear
Oh,
that,
good.
so
Good.
thank you.
So congratulations to Ava. And then the next one, Sarah.
Come on down, it's like the price is right. We are so excited about this month-long adventure we've been taking at the middle school called Camp Out for Hunger, where the middle school students have been raising canned food items that will go to our local pantry. And they have literally raised over 3,000 items. Now, as you know, we were unfortunately remote for 2 weeks. So literally they did that in about 2 weeks, 2.5. That is so impressive. Their level of care and excitement has been contagious across the building. So part of the fun of this all, so please come by with lots of hot chocolate and coffee, was they had to raise certain amounts to get me to camp out on the bus ramp, literally in a tent this Sunday night. And then for every certain amount afterwards was different staff members in the building. So there are 7 of us who will be camping. Again, lots of hot chocolate, hand warmers would be appreciated. But we will also be open to accepting donations from the community if they wanted to come contribute. We will have another tent out there. In our cafeteria, there's about 4 or 5 tents, and they've been putting the stuff in there. So you walk in and it's like Tent City, and they're just full of, you name it. I don't even know. Some of it I walk by and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that brand's good. But they come in the morning and they're like, you're gonna sleep out. And I'm like, no, it's gonna be so cold. And they're like, you're going down. And I'm like, this is great. But they've been so excited about giving back to the community. And it's just, like I said, it's been inspiring and really exciting. So the 7 of us will be very cold and it's Sunday night, but we will be camping literally on the bus ramp so that especially in the morning, the kids can see us and know that we 100% were there, but very excited. We've got some local community press coming as well to support us and get that word out as well. So just a really awesome celebration. And I'm just super proud of them. And thank you parents for helping support as well, because we know there was a lot of that, but yeah, just really exciting news. Yes, we actually, I think we're gonna have 2 to make sure we can all get in warm enough. That's good to know. I know, my husband goes, you're not sleeping on the ground, are you? You're getting a little old. And I was like, okay, we need to have a different conversation. But luckily one of my teachers is gonna like, I'm gonna bring you a cot sim so that you can move the next morning. I'm like, what are you guys trying to say to me? But yeah, so just really exciting, and what a great cause, and just incredible to see our students so excited and so willing to give back. So just something really awesome to celebrate.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah.
Just to let you know, the weather app says the temperature is between 37 and down to 19 degrees.
Okay, that's not as bad as it
motivation
could be.
for you.
Could be worse. Like I said, lots of mummy bags. I said it's a good thing my family is camping, and most of the people are avid campers, and we all seem to have amongst us all of the gear to keep us really warm.
You could move it into the cafeteria if you had to.
I figured if we got like any sort of nasty weather, we would adjust if we really needed to. But
Kids
our
will be
goal
sleeping, they won't.
is to stick to our word and actually sleep out.
Right.
So we're trying to be like, nope, we said we do it, we're good.
What time are you guys starting? Like, will you be
We
there?
are planning to set up somewhere around 2:30 to 3,
Okay.
so that we can get set up before the darkness descends upon us. And then so probably really like 3:30 on.
Okay.
If people want to swing by and drop stuff off, we'll be ready to take this as well.
This Sunday?
Yes, December 5th. Woohoo! I'm so excited for you. Yes, yeah.
Well,
And the
Becky,
students don't know yet, but we're gonna declare Jammy Day on Monday, just so that we can all be really comfortable together as we defrost.
Excellent. Correspondence as written?
just as written.
Hank, you're later. Would you like to go now?
I mean, I won't argue.
You've leveled up, Hank.
So Hank, if you could just introduce yourself and what you're doing here. It's good to see you.
Well, now it's time for the exciting part of the meeting. I'm Hank Farah, an auditor with Brennan, Kirsty, and Willette. I'm here to go over the audit results for the year, and this is going to be the last time you guys see me giving audit results. So I'm officially retiring from public accounting and moving into a different realm after 22 years, which I think is 20 years longer than most people make it in public accounting. So the hours have finally defeated me. But it has been a pleasure and joy. I've been working on this audit of MSAD11 since 2003. When I started with RKO, it's one of the first jobs I was ever on. And I got to work my way up the ranks and become a partner, and got to partner this job for the last 11 years. And it's been nothing but a pleasure. I got to deal with Noreen others, who this building is named after before. And then now I get to deal with Andrea, who is much better than Noreen. Just so you know. And I'm actually going to request that we change the name of the building at the end of this to the Andrea Dish Administrative Building. Due to her awesomeness at dealing with me. It's not easy. Everybody should have I passed out some packets here. I'm just going to kind of go through the audit results. The big thing is you never want your auditor to show up and have exciting news, because we only tell you bad news in writing. We let you know how terrible you did and then put it out there for all the world to see. Probably why no one likes auditors. But if you could see on page 2 of the summary audit results, I really don't have much to say, and that's what you want. Overall, we give an opinion on your financial statements. It's an unmodified opinion. That's what you want to receive. That's a clean opinion. Which means everything is fairly stated in all material respects. We say fairly stated in all material respects because we do not test 100% of the transactions. If we did, I'd never leave here. But I have full confidence that we've gained enough evidence to render a clean opinion that there is no material misstatements within those financial statements. We also issue a few other reports. One's reports required by government auditing standards. This is where we take a look at your internal control structure and let you know if there's any sort of significant deficiencies or material weaknesses within that structure. Happy to say, no material weaknesses, nor any significant deficiencies. Now, one other report we issue is a reports required by uniform guidance. This is where we take a look at your federal expenditures. And this year, big changes with the federal expenditures. Normally, you guys get a little under $2 million a year that you spend in federal funds. For 2021, you had almost $6 million. So you nearly tripled the amount of federal funds that came through MSAD11 this year. Almost all of that was from the CRF program, which is Coronavirus Relief Funds, and you also got some from ESSER, which is, I can't remember exactly what that stands for, but some other Corona monies. Overall, you've got $3.4 million of coronavirus relief funding for FY21, and that's the program we tested as major. Happy to say there was no findings in the program. And honestly, I think it'd be tough for any auditor to have any findings in the program with the amount of information that they need to upload to the state before even getting reimbursed for those funds. So we came in, looked at the program, looked at what we spent, and we found nothing inappropriate, and all the rules were followed and everything was filled out properly and reported. So happy to say overall, clean reports. So going to the next page, we're going to talk about some of the financial highlights. And I know how everybody usually reads those financial statements cover to cover, but we break these down a little bit for those who may not read those cover to cover, kind of point out some pertinent information. I can see we have a 5-year trend here for fund balance, and it's broken out into a couple categories, non-spendable, assigned, and unassigned. Overall, your fund balance increased a little over $500,000, and now you're sitting at almost $4.8 million in your general fund. Assigned fund balance, which is about $1.6 million, made up of two pieces. You have a special education reserve for around $300,000. And then you also budgeted to use a little over $1.3 million of that fund balance when you pass the fiscal year 2022 budget. So that part is considered assigned. And then the remainder is just considered unassigned. Right now, fund balance has increased since 2017. And at the end of the year, there's a rule about having 3% of fund balance. Unassigned can't be above 3% of your budget unless you had a plan to work it down. And usually your plan is to utilize fund balance. And you can see how you've had a use of fund balance in the assigned increasing for most of the years. That 3% has been bumped up to 9% going into FY22. And then it goes down to 5% sometime in the future. But I think it's 9% for the next couple of fiscal years. So why did your fund balance increase? So we're gonna look at two parts of it, your budget to actual. First section is revenues. And revenues came in pretty close. The only one with any sort of variance that's somewhat significant was charges for services. That contains tuition, and you had tuition students exceeded your projections. Tuition came in at about 76,000 above budget, but there was a reduced number of athletic events and and there were no co-curricular activities, causing transportation revenues and these athletic receipts to come in well under budget, which kind of counteracted that. If you wanted to see more detail, Exhibit A2 in the financials breaks these down a little bit further. And I do want to point out that utilization of prior year surplus. If everybody in this room was the perfect budgeter, like you guys were spot on with every revenue, every expenditure, your fund balance would have went down by 1.3 million during the year. But instead, it increased 500,000, and what you're going to see is that's on the next page. As overall expenditures came in under budget by roughly 1.9 million. Go through a couple of reasons. Regular instruction had savings in salaries and benefits and some unused contingency. Special education had less tuition to private schools and changes to staffing. Savings in transportation caused by fewer in-person school days with less bus runs. And facilities maintenance, savings in supplies and utilities due to fewer school days. I'm seeing under expending across the board this year, and I'm going to guess a portion of that is due to getting over 3 million of brand new money. I did want to point out that just the increase in your federal expenditures alone was 14% of what you normally spend in the general fund. So that's a lot of extra spending to have in one year. And what I've seen everywhere is some of that funding had to come out of the general fund, whether it be substitutes or certain things. And I know the idea was to not take away anything, but I think it would have been near impossible spending a new $3.5 million and not having savings somewhere in the general fund. So it's what I'm seeing across the state as I go and give these presentations, is that a lot of the underspending during the year. On the next page, page 6, just a revenue distribution, kind of showing you where your money's coming in from. And 40% in 2021, very similar, a little bit lower, is coming from local assessments. And local assessments, the dollar value was actually down around 28,000 between FY21 and FY20. And then there's intergovernmental revenue, which is mostly state revenues. And that bumped up almost a percent, about 0.7%, which was roughly about $360,000 increase from funds received from the state between FY21 and FY20. So you can see that you've really been hovering around the low 40s, and from the state's been increasing used to be around 55.5%. You're up to around 58 this year. So trending in the right direction. Instead of just coming from your local assessment, a little bit more is coming from the state. And then the last two pie charts kind of go hand in hand, kind of show you 2021 as a comparison to 2020 in pie chart form, and two big movers. And by big movers, I'm talking a slightly lower percentage. Regular instruction was down about 1.2% between FY20 and FY21. And then special education was up around 1.4% between the 2 years. Regular instruction costs actually went down between FY20 and FY21 by around 55,000. Again, I mentioned that Exhibit A2 in the financial statements. You could see a comparative between FY21 and FY20 on that schedule in your financial statements. And then that special education increase was around 425,000 more than the prior year, causing that piece of the pie to be a little bit bigger. And that's all I've got to talk about. If anybody has any questions about some of that financial information that I flew through, or any of the audit processes, this is your last time you get me. So, you guys can ask away. All right, well, I guess, maybe I should have been more confusing. We don't have some questions, so, get this a little bit more exciting from the last time, but I guess I can just step away and let you guys finish the rest of your meeting.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the years that you've worked with us. It's been a pleasure to work with. I know Andrea's really enjoyed working with you, and make sure you only send us the best for your replacement.
I'll try my best. I don't think I'll have a say in it though, because I won't be there, but we'll see what I can pull off.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andrea, thank you.
You again.
Yeah.
I don't know where Becky stepped away.
She's out there, so she's gonna be she's gonna be a bit, she's out there right now.
Okay, so, is it okay if I take over for her? All right, so committee reports, capital area tech, there was no meeting. Curriculum committee, what?
What can we, I'm now the delegate or the representative, what can we do to get them off the dime? So that we have some meetings? It's ridiculous.
There are meetings scheduled according to the law. You only need to meet, it's either 3 or 4 times a year. So that's all they ever meet, or only 3 or
That's
4 times a
fine,
year. So I think I gave you dates for their next meeting.
No, I'm not done. Unless I missed it, but
I thought I handed those to you. I will go back and I will look at my calendar and I will send them to you.
Please do.
The next one is in this month. And they're all virtual.
Good thing I asked, because I don't remember getting anything from you, but I will.
It's the 21st at 8 a.m.
21st
21st of December at 8 a.m. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Curriculum committee, Matt?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. We had our meeting on November 9th. We talked about fall assessment data. Angela shared that with us. We had a discussion regarding the data and asked some questions related to the disruption of learning due to COVID. And there's no surprise that the data definitely reflected the lack of in-person education. So I honestly, looking at the data, and I think, I don't know if Angela would agree with me, but I think that it was actually better than I thought it was going to be. And I think that we're positioned now with in-person learning 5 days a week to when the spring assessment time comes up. I think we're going to be in really, really good shape. We're going to see some skyrocketing improvement, I think, as long as kids stay in school. So, Angela, anything you want to add?
We did present using the slide deck, so we recorded that meeting. So if you want to see the presentation, it is available online.
And there's one other thing I'd like to point out. So if you look at the brief that the gentleman just gave us, I think I added it up in the general fund, 62% of our budget is for learning curriculum type stuff, in class type stuff. So it's a huge investment. If kids aren't there, it's a problem. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Jim, dropout prevention committee.
Yes. We met on the 23rd of November, Tuesday. We had the best attended meeting that we've had so far this last 6 meetings, I think. And I brought up something there that I picked up at the State School Board Association convention at one of the presentations. It's called a differential diploma. And it's something that I don't want to waste everybody's time in going into detail on it. We did it quite a bit at the meeting, but it's another avenue for which we can get students graduated. It usually works through the adult education program. It is different than theirs. It is an actual, the diploma that they would get would be a full-fledged Gardner Regional High School diploma. The only difference is they take fewer courses. It's for somebody who has had a problem, homelessness, illness, even sometimes if they start out at the kids were unattentive, let's say, for the first freshman year, and they didn't get much done. Yet they kind of come to and they really work on it on the sophomore year. In this junior year, they can apply to get into this program. They have to have a mentor, and they have to be accepted in the program. And somebody has to recommend them to go into this program. I happen to have a grandson who lost a lot of freshman year as having had an accident. I don't think he's going to need any of this because he's made well, but this is the situation. He was probably out of class for 3 months almost, and difficult coming back. So that sort of a student would be able to qualify for this. And I think it's a good program. Everybody that's on the committee thought it would be a good program. It takes that kid that hits his senior year or getting close to it, and he looks back and he says, I've got to get all this done in this short amount of time, and I just can't do it. They drop out. The reason we're presenting this is because it's a proven program that has worked. I didn't leave it up. There we go. Bonnie Eagle High School were the presenters, the superintendent and their adult education / differential diploma specialist presented an outstanding reason how to do this. I won't go into it all, but I think it's something we want to talk about. We'll need buy-in from curriculum, and we'll also need buy-in from policy because it changes a few things. So, and I don't know that if we can get it done for this graduating class, it would be a Herculean effort, but possibly. And I know we can get it done for the following year. And Josh was at the meeting, and you mentioned you have at least one, possibly two students that are attending your classes that would qualify for something like this.
I think I said I've had a couple students.
Maybe I misunderstood,
Yeah, who might have qualified for something like this, but I honestly don't know all of their circumstances, so, but, and that was based on what I read on.
Okay. So anyways, that's all that we did. We talked about that. We tried to keep it down to 1 hour, probably less time than I'm talking right now. But so anyways, that's what we talked about. I really think the program's worth looking into. It's not just going to be the dropout prevention. It will be curriculum and all of the staff, and we have to get a buy-in from everybody. So that's it. Thank you.
Jim, I would be welcome to help you if you need any help with that, for this, getting it forward for this year.
Finance committee, in your folder, policy committee. Next. Finance, are you gonna do a report? I was actually just gonna move on and let folks read it.
There was a motion out of finance, so.
So in the finance committee meeting, let's see. Josh came and he proposed a driver's education course. We haven't had one. Apparently all of the driver's ed schools are backed up. What's the word? Yes, they're backed up.
All of them are waitlisted.
Waitlisted, that's the word. Thank you. Thank you. So we discussed a proposal, and Jim made a motion and recommended that the school board approve the adult ed driver's education course as proposed. So we do need to vote on that as a full board.
So since Josh is here, does it make sense just to give a little more information? I think it might be hard for the entire board to vote on all of it without needing just a little more detail.
And Josh has the best detail.
Wasn't sure I'd be speaking. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. So driver's education program, really it comes down to looking for a different revenue source for adult education. Our enrichment program supplements our budget, brings in money every year. Obviously, the last couple of years, we've not done nearly the enrichment we used to. And I don't know what, we used to do trips, travel, and so that is another complicated piece in the last couple of years. So we needed to make sure we had something that was a steady income. So I was looking at a driver ed program. And essentially, I think what I proposed, it looks like we can come in with about $10,000 a year of revenue. I think I projected out 5 years for that. I have gone over, we've had Mullins Driving School, worked through the high school previously, and I actually did get a chance to speak with Ben Mullins. And he actually isn't in our classrooms here. They've gotten permission to do some remote work with COVID, and his business obviously suffered a bit with COVID, but he is waitlisted, just like other programs, and he was very supportive. I appreciated that I talked to him about it. I said I didn't think it would be that much competition if we were doing 4 classes a year. He seemed agreeable. He'll probably, if we do this, be the one that ends up training whoever we hire to be our instructor, because his school is one of the schools in the state that can then do that. And he's one of the instructors to teach instructors. But I think it's a good idea for us to have a more diverse set of revenue streams coming in. And I think this would be a good option. So,
What was the price?
we had initially, was it 550 I had on the
550 or 560?
560, that's right. It's 560 for, and we were thinking about having, that was a kind of projection with smaller class sizes. They could fit up to 30 in a class. And so I averaged it, I think, to 25 or 22. 22, thank you. I didn't, I'm totally unprepared. I'm so sorry. It's all good. 22, so that was kind of averaging to 22, knowing that maybe when we started, we wouldn't have as many, get the instructor comfortable. But that was a slightly higher price than what I think most folks are offering, around the 500 mark.
So I think, I didn't attend the meeting, but I watched it, I did the YouTube video, and I think it's a great opportunity. I think given where we've been the last few years, there's a few things that are really important to young adults, and getting their license is one of those things. Giving them the opportunity to do that safely and keep it within house and have the ability to make a little money on top of that, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. You've got a lot of kids that won't be, because of the wait list.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of kids that it'll be a long time before they can get their permit and eventually get their license. So I think it's a good program. I mean, when I was in school, we had it. It worked out very well.
So to your question, would we all offer scholarships? That's certainly an option to look at. That's not something I've explored at this point, but if there was room for a scholarship, we would certainly do that. We certainly, my thought would be that priority goes to students in the district, right? So we got folks at Gardner High School. If we had slots open, then we would obviously be willing to let others go.
Thank you for reaching out to the other schools to make sure that there's no competition and it was effective. That was one of my concerns during the meeting, was just affecting this business.
Ben was super helpful. He's got all kinds, he's like, he gave me his number. He's like, if you need any advice, just call me. So he was very helpful and appreciated the call. And he is really busy right now, and he's trying to, hire some more drivers back because his things were obviously much more difficult.
Is this a year-round thing? Because I know I did driver's ed over 30 years ago. It was in the summer.
Yeah. So I think what I proposed was we're really we're talking about running 2 classes in semester, right? And I think about it in semester. So 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring, or 2 in the fall and 2 in the spring. So 4 classes a year.
80 kids.
So how would you, as far, I use the word seniority because I'm a military guy, but if you had 60 kids and only 30 slots, how would you figure out who the 30 are going to be without having issues?
So my thought would be, we're basically gonna go with whoever calls me first.
Right.
Since
Okay.
I'm on it.
That makes sense.
Well, I would say whoever calls and comes in and pays first.
Right, I
So
get it.
if you come and you pay, and we do have the ability to do, register people online. And so they could call on the phone, we can register with a credit card and all that.
Okay.
I guess it's more of a comment or more of a comment than a question. You might consider when you implement it, trying to give preference to those students who have like sports or extracurricular activities that they're really into, to make sure that they can get in at a time where it's not going to be a major conflict.
Yeah, that is something I have to look more closely at the athletic schedules. I think we're gonna come up against that. I think we could get to the point of doing it in the summer. This could be really helpful. And I hadn't planned that in the beginning of it, but it's definitely something we can look at, and we can be adaptable to what the community needs. But yeah, appreciate that.
Claude would be very happy.
Who's Claude?
Oh my gosh, he was a driver's ed teacher, the video guy,
Oh.
he did everything, all technical back. Many years ago. Probably when you were in school.
So do we need a motion?
We do need a
I make
motion.
the motion that we recommend per the finance committee's motion.
I second that.
I'm making it easy
Right.
today, right?
Questions or comments or anything else? All those in favor? Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Great idea.
The rest of the committee was just an update on the modular units. HT has been moving in this week. Yes. So yes, and Kitchen Randolph is all moved in. The committee talked about the significant reduction in the free and reduced numbers and the impact that will have on subsidy. And the snow plow bids went out and it was awarded to McGee. It's a 3-year bid for them to do the sanding and plowing.
Thank you, Scott. Policy committee.
All right. So we met, actually, it says November 9th. We actually met on the 4th, right before the last board meeting. The minutes reflect the 4th, just the agenda itself is misstated. So we had robust discussion over the policies listed there for a first reading. If you have any, well, we can have a discussion, I guess, shortly. If we can, I'll put a motion forward to accept the policies listed as a bundle for first reading.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
I just had a question. I know remote participation in the school board meetings. Was there any major discussion about that, or?
We had a robust discussion about that and looked at keeping it in a pretty focused use of adding this option in. So this sort of picks up where the we were able to meet remotely because of the governor's order. The governor's order lifted and we can't meet remotely. We must meet in person. This policy allows us to meet remotely in certain situations. And so we had a discussion about what those situations would be, which is basically a state declared emergency, or we can also make the local choice if for some reason there's, terrible weather or a section of road out or something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So I guess
Need a motion?
we have a
Motion and a second.
Motion
Yeah,
and
a
second.
All those in favor of adopting these policies as written? Motion carries.
Thank you. And then, so a little bit more, we have the next bundle for a second reading. And I would,
And that would include the rescission.
oh, thank you. I was gonna actually break those out, but let's do them, let's do it all as a group. So we have the second reading of that second set of policies. We've done that as a first reading back in November. Yeah, so I would move to accept that as a bundle along with the rescinded policy and the job description for the video production specialist.
I'll make a second to this motion.
All those in favor? Excellent, thank you.
Ready, I'm ready. Is it my turn?
Your turn.
Awesome.
Didn't even get those 2 words out, but yes.
Okay, awesome. So the Gardner Area High School Interact Club sponsored a tree. Maybe I can help us with this, lucky person who got it, because they received $400 in donations. That was also given in UMaine hockey tickets, super exciting. And Botanical Garden light shows. Anyone has gone to see that? It's gorgeous. They're also sponsoring MSAD11 families in need for Operation Christmas. And I'm involved in this too with NHS, Student Council, JMG, and the Civil Rights Team. The items that are being sent to these families are clothing, footwear, a wish list gift, and stocking stuffers, which is really awesome and good for our community. And tonight, as Ms. West stated earlier, the drama club at the middle school is proud to present Sherlock Holmes. Tonight was the opening night. Yesterday we had a dress rehearsal. It went really well. And this weekend they have show times at 7 p.m. tonight, tomorrow, and on Saturday. Tickets can be purchased at the GRMS playtickets@gmail.com. The adult tickets are $8 and the students and senior tickets are $5. So, should go see it. It's really cool.
I didn't go to that on purpose to go later in the week. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
Sophie, do you have-
Okay. So the Civil Rights Team took part in a very successful statewide day of welcoming on November 5th. A group of people, which includes Superintendent Hopkins, Mayor Hart, Chief Tillman, and they joined GRMS and Gardner Area High School teachers and coaches to stand outside and personally welcome students to school. Civil Rights Team allows people to be more comfortable and be themselves and not scared to be themselves. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sophie. Next on the agenda is the ad hoc Hope Field.
Wellness.
Oh, I'm sorry, wellness.
I wasn't there, but I read the notes. They did a nice walk in the back of the middle school the last time. Somebody captured how many steps, and Ari's always good at sharing ways to keep us at peace. And otherwise, I was gonna ask Sarah,
That's his
does he have to
specialty.
sleep out too, or do we still need
He
more?
is.
Okay.
Yes, Ari was the last
Okay.
one. And we did a lot of like, only 47 more,
Right.
only 30 more,
Awesome.
and yeah.
Perfect.
He'll be out there. I'm sure it will be for night of time.
Yes, yes. So I think for December, we're not meeting, but we've been visiting every school and meeting, and whoever shows up, and it's been really sort of enlightening in a way, just go to share time with some sick things. So,
Yes,
yeah.
great. Thank you. Hope Field. So we met yesterday. Was that yesterday? We met yesterday. And the next thing to work on is the recognition wall. So we talked about what that's going to look like. They're going to do a speckled concrete that's a prettier finish than just concrete. Talked about getting prices for the tiles, the glass-like tiles that will be going on the recognition wall, and then also getting straight the Bricks Are Us money so that all the bricks can be accounted for and that we can get that part of the project moving next. That was about it. The robust meeting. General information.
Just as written.
And no nominations, new business.
Done.
Did that already. Old business.
All right, so old business. Old business is the Health Advisory Committee recommendation, so. First of all, let me just remind everyone, the makeup of the committee includes myself, Angela Hardy, who's the Director of Curriculum. We have Chad Kempton, the high school principal, Sarah Sims, the middle school principal, Tiffany Cockrell, who is representing the elementary administrators, Gabe Dostie, the Director of Operations. We have Michael Coco, who is a high school teacher, and he is representing the Teachers Association. We have Cindy Kropp, who is the president of the Ed Tech Administrative Assistants Association, and she's representing those groups. We have Matthew Lillybridge, who is a representative from the school board, Matt Marshall, another school board representative. We have Kristen Martin, who is our lead nurse, Christina Bordelais, who is another nurse. We have Jessica Rubashkin, who is a pediatric nurse and a parent in our community. And we have Rachel Fisk, who is also a parent, and she's an assistant state veterinarian in the Maine Department of Agriculture and Conservation and Forestry. What the committee reviewed for some of the information, the vaccination rates, some of the data, now that the state is reporting vaccination rates for students, children ages 5 and up, not just 12 and up. So our vaccination percentage went from 65 to 69% down to 35 to 39% because it's a different population. The staff overall percentage rate as at 82, that did not change. COVID in schools as of November 24th. The number of cases in schools went up 2,239 since November 1st or whenever our last meeting was. And the number of outbreaks in schools went up by 56. As of that day, we had 24 positive student cases, 5 staff cases. Since the start of school, we had 105 positive cases and 18 positive cases. That was up 53 students and 11 staff since the beginning of November. I think as of today, we're up 133 positive cases. Laura E. Richards School is now or was an outbreak status. And I received a phone call today from the CDC, from the outbreak coordinator. We've just played phone tag, so I'm not sure, but I believe she's calling to tell me probably that the middle school was officially an outbreak, which wouldn't be a surprise.
We are, Sarah Quinn talked to them today.
Okay, I assumed it was the middle school. Kennebec County still red and high transmission rate. At the time, the 7-day percentage of positivity rates was 26.3. The active cases were 339, which was up by 36 from November 1st. The vaccination rate for Kennebec County was up 1.6%, and the hospitalization rate was still at 7.14. So the recommendation from the committee, again, it was a healthy, robust conversation. I mean, we have an hour and it took about an hour and 15 minutes. This is a little lengthy. It's not just a straightforward recommendation. So the overall recommendation is that the school board continues with the universal mask mandate through the holiday break with the goal to end the mask mandate, if possible, by late January, early February. And just like last month, we talked a bit about the fact that the US federal transportation, that mask mandate that we have to have on our buses, that was slated to end on January 18th. So we're kind of targeting and thinking about that. As of today, just so you know, that was extended through March. When the school board decides to end the universal mask mandate, it provides the nurses and administration at least 1 month to prepare. We talked about the fact that there are things that will have to be done. So if the board votes at any time to say no mask mandate, it doesn't, we're recommending it doesn't immediately go into effect the next day, that we have some time to prepare for that. The school board approved participating in pool testing as soon as possible, with the goal that pool testing will help the district to end the mask mandate, hopefully shortly after the holidays. The board should understand that pool testing is a tool to help mitigate the spread of COVID in schools. Pool testing exempts those who participate in having to quarantine if they are determined to be a close contact only from a school exposure, not an outside exposure. Vaccinated students and staff may participate in pool testing, but should be aware that if they do not have to quarantine, should be aware that they do not have to quarantine if named a close contact with or without pool testing due to being fully vaccinated. For them, it's just another layer of protection. The board should also be aware that pool testing in conjunction with ending the mask mandate would mean that anyone participating in pool testing, even if they are within 6 feet of a positive case at school, would mean the participant would not have to quarantine, masked or not. For pool testing, masking status is essentially irrelevant. However, the board should also be aware that if we end the mask mandate, those who still choose to mask would still have to quarantine if notified that they're a close contact within 6 feet, unless they participate in pool testing or if they are fully vaccinated. There's still a lot of concern about the heavy lift with the pool testing, but at one time there was a wait list. There's no longer a wait list. And it's our understanding that the vendor provides some support if you ask for that support, so that it wouldn't necessarily fall completely on the shoulders of our nurses who are already beyond capacity. And I don't know if you know this, I didn't highlight it before, but I have hired a long-term sub-nurse that she is right now spending a lot of time at the high school because of the workload up there, but she will be available to work throughout the district wherever we need her. Okay. So that's what I have. I guess I would say Matt, you were present. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Well, I think the one thing is Kristen Martin, who's the head nurse for the district. She was very supportive of pool testing. She wasn't in the past, but given the new opportunity to maybe mitigate some masking issues in the future, she's actually interested in very supportive of starting that. So we can take that on board as board members. The one thing you had mentioned about 30 days from the time we vote to go maskless, I thought we were going to discuss this evening with the board that we could start potentially planning like soon, prior to a vote even, like, get the nurses together to get a plan, get the staff together to get a plan. And not just a plan to remove masks forever, an alternate plan if we need to go backwards. Unfortunately, if we have to. I think it's, I don't know if Matt, is that pretty accurate?
It's 90% accurate, and it's just how we hear information differently. The biggest thing is it's not turning on and off a light switch if we vote to go no mask or whatever. So Kristen and a couple of the other nurses were the ones who would say, look, you can't just tell us, the January 4 or whatever the first school board meeting is in January, that we're going to go no mask. And then on the 17th or 18th, the mark on the wall wasn't enough time. So I think the understanding was leaning forward towards, let's start to put our ducks in a row of potentially going to no mask after, the sniffle season and holidays and all that other stuff. But we would still vote on it, but not just dump it on their laps at the last minute and make the school administrators and the nursing corps only, pull something out of their butts.
I mean, we want to move forward and be successful with this. We don't want to screw it up because we didn't lean forward enough. So
Yeah, and the other thing too is, indicative to Kristen's argument where she wasn't for pool, well, no one was for pool testing. I don't know how the administrators feel still, but again, if it cuts down on quarantines, if you take part in the pool testing, especially if the masks come off, then it might be worth the effort to do it across the district.
Jim.
In the district that did pool testing while I was there. And they had it down to a science. I mean, it worked out very smoothly. You'd come and they'd go, and the nurse, I don't know if we ought to think about hiring a person to take the load off of the nurses to just do pool testing. I had it done to me. It's nothing more than rubbing a swab through your nostril. And you don't have to be a medical professional. I don't think. I may be wrong, but even in it.
Yeah, so the vendor, as I mentioned, the vendor would provide support. So that means that they would help us identify bodies, people who would help do some of that work. So the burden wouldn't be solely on the shoulders of the nurses. The nurses are already, many are working beyond capacity.
That's what I'm afraid
And
of.
so, yes, we have to be really concerned about that. It is my understanding that once the system is in place, yeah, it's really simple. It's really easy. Even the youngest students, they can swab themselves. I mean, my stepdaughter's a kindergarten teacher and all the kids do it themselves. And she's like, it's nothing. But the setup does take time. And there's a heavy lift the first 2 or 3 weeks trying to get the system in place. And so that's where the nurses would absolutely need some support.
And there are two separate issues too, the mask vote, yes, no, and the pool testing are two separate things. And if we agree on the pool testing, I say we jump on it before the Christmas break to get everything. So hopefully in January, it's up full board type of thing.
Well, the delay will be the vendor trying to find that support to help us. If it is just simply implementing the testing, then I'm told it's like a 2-week process. But if they're going to provide the support, then a lot of it will be contingent upon their ability to find people. So it may take a little bit longer.
And it doesn't take a medical professional, Jim.
I have one other comment.
Alyssa.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna ask, this is one that feels like the participation was a question we had before too. Is that still a number we have to hit, like so many % or something?
No, last spring, we were told that you had to have a 30% participation rate in each building in order to be able to participate. We're now told that that doesn't exist. There is no minimum number. Some of the other schools that I've spoken with, they are only seeing the number of participants increase, that people are seeing the value, it's easy, and so more and more are signing up for the pool testing because it is preventing those students who are unvaccinated from having to quarantine as frequently.
And when you talk about the support, I assume, do they handle kind of the consent forms or whatever? That's part of what they would do, or we?
I don't have that level of
Okay.
specificity. All I know at this point is that they provide some support.
Okay.
I would assume that they would provide a lot of the documentation that we
Yeah.
would have to use. We wouldn't have to generate that
Good.
ourselves.
Yeah,
But I'm really not certain
Okay.
yet all that they will provide.
very good. Thank you.
Matt.
So the committee also talked about, of course, masks, no masks, masks. Talked about if you're wearing a mask, it's 3 feet social distancing. If you're not wearing a mask, it's 6 feet social distancing. And there was a lot of the nurses and some of the administrators on the committee specifically said 6 feet is going to put us back like last year, potentially remote, 2 or 3 days a week, and in person a couple days a week. So there's a potential that we're going to slide backwards. So I just want to point that out. And the other issue is, the only issue that the board is responsible for deciding is masks, yes or no. Mandate, everything else is a mandate, the 3-foot distance, the 6-foot distance. So I guess you got to pick your poison. You can send your kid to school with a mask, or the board can vote no mask and you can send your kid to school And they've got to stay 6 feet apart and go to school, maybe just a couple times a week and be remote the rest. So you have to pick your poison. It is what it is. We could come here every month and talk the same thing, but it is what it is. We can't control specific mandates. We can control masking, but masking is based on those mandates. So
And the
it's a
mandates,
tough call. It really is.
and
It's
the
not
mandates are
fun.
the SOP, correct?
Right. I mean, I am a no mask guy. I've preached no masks all along, but you know, when you look at the curriculum committee that we had, the meeting we had, and we look at the data, kids suffered. I mean, that data was rough. And hopefully by being there 5 days a week in the spring data will be much better. So compromise is good. I think we're gonna get there. It's just a matter of rolling it out the right way and not have to go backwards when we do.
We had our meeting just this past Monday when the ruling on the bus mandate, and I said, you know, call me crazy, but I'm willing to bet that that 17 January is gonna get pushed back. And just found out that it did.
Teresa?
So has anybody researched the program that Reedfield School uses about the little protocol before you come to school, XYZ, do you have any of these symptoms if you do stay home? Many schools in Maine use that system.
I have not looked at that. Our system, we have left it up to parents at this point to say whether their children are sick or not, and then to come to school. But no, Teresa, I have not personally. I don't know if the nurses have.
I just know that it helps a lot. The teachers have to do it and the parents do it. And if you have XYZ, then you should stay home. I went to a doctor's appointment, I had a cold. And people are so frantic about this, it's ridiculous. I had to sit in the car for 45 minutes because I had a cold during cold season and wait for a COVID test, which I've been vaccinated for. However, you can still get COVID with the vaccination. Only to find out that I didn't have COVID, which I knew I didn't have COVID, I just had a cold. So I think if people have something, a scale to run by, gives them an idea of, well, perhaps I should stay home. Perhaps this isn't just a cold. Perhaps this is something more than a fever. It just kind of gives them a little list of things to go through. Just my thought.
I will contact the superintendent. He was out for a while, but he is back. So I will reach out to him. Yes.
So it boils down to this. It's pretty simple, right? It's 3 things. It isn't about, I get it, it's probably a good tool, but it's about the 3 foot and the 6 foot social distancing issue. With or without masks, we cannot do 6 feet without having a cohort A and a cohort B like we did last year. We can't do it. You're the administrator. I mean, I don't think.
So I just have this thought running through my mind. When I go out to dinner, I wear a mask to my table. I remove my mask and I sit in a restaurant with people that are more than 6 feet away from me, tables.
Yeah, but the DOE doesn't run restaurants.
True.
That
might be a good thing. I don't know.
The
Possibly.
SOP that we have to follow, that doesn't come from the DOE either.
Or-
That's a CDC.
Or
that's
CDC
requirement.
mandate, whatever.
So, and we understand it's not the same rules that apply in the rest of our lives. It's only a rule that applies in the school, but we are required to follow that particular rule. And let me just say, in terms of hybrid, we're really not going to have the authority to do the hybrid in the way we had last year. So last year, we were all operating under a state of emergency. So we had flexible, the ability to flex our schedule, our school schedule, and so that students could be home on Wednesdays. They were home to help provide time for our staff because of the additional work, to provide in-person and remote learning. We don't have that flexibility this year. So we have to provide in-person instruction 5 days a week. The governor is not allowing us a waiver to the 175 student days.
Right.
So we have to be mindful of that. Chad had a question and he was going to come up to the podium to ask his question.
Actually, it wasn't a question, it was more of just a. Get the word podium?
Absolutely.
Just to answer the question or concern in regards to phone calls. I can only speak for the high school in that we get a boatload of phone calls from parents. What happens is Diane or Christina, if the parent is calling and questioning a sickness, then they refer it to nurse Nora, and Nora calls them. So a lot of parents, or at least all of my parents, are calling, being proactive about it, because they don't want to have their kids come into school and be sick and then have to go home and be quarantined or have other kids be quarantined. So the system we have in place is that if a parent is calling their child in sick, Diane takes it down, we excuse the absence, and we kick it to Nora. Nora calls and talks to the parent. They decide on whether they need to do or evaluate symptoms based on parent input or student input on a daily basis.
This is like an automated system, like no school.
Yeah.
And you just press the buttons if you have the symptom. It's for the teachers too.
Yeah. What Nora likes about our system is she gets to have an in-person conversation with somebody on the phone. So there's a lot of nuances to whether it's COVID or if it's a flu or a cold or sniffles or whatever. So she gets to talk through that process with a parent, and obviously believes it's very accurate in what they do, and she develops a rapport with people. It's not always the end result that the parent wants or that we want. Sometimes it results in the student staying home or going to get tested. But I can only speak for our parents, and that at the high school, the parents are doing a fantastic job of calling in and working with Nora. And again, it's a frustrating process. Everyone knows that. But you know, I can't speak to this system, so because I don't know it, but I'm just wanting you to know that there is a system in place. And I'm sure the other schools have something similar, but our nurse is on the phone.
This just gives the staff a relief from taking the phone calls. Because the parents would do their own screening, the teachers would do their own screening by a automated phone call that goes to each home. So it would save you guys some time.
Just wanted to let you folks know what goes on up the hill.
Thank you, Chad.
Just real quick, I'd like to just follow up with what Chad was saying. We do the same thing at review. Christina, our nurse, is on the phone all morning, having that rapport with the parents. So it's a good rapport versus an automated system. She has a chance to ask questions. The parents have a chance to ask questions. And it's a really good, just give and take back and forth. And yes, it is time consuming, but it's really building relationships. And sometimes when parents have a lot of questions, she's able to answer them. Sometimes, like Chad said, it results in the child having to stay home. Sometimes it doesn't. But the parents are getting really good at calling in and asking those questions. And if we do have a student who's absent and hasn't had a phone call, then our nurse calls. So she's on the phone for a couple hours every morning, making those phone calls and just really checking in with every student that isn't there or isn't feeling well. So it's a really good system that we're using right now. It's working, and it has built a good rapport with our parents.
Oh, yes. It's been a lot of information that came to us since yesterday, all the emails that we received. And then listening to the people here talking tonight. And a lot of us have, jello for brain right now, trying to process through all that stuff. I do appreciate the committee's work that they have done. And when I do go against what their recommendations are, and when I go against what the parents and staff members' recommendations are, it's not a personal attack to them. It's one of those things that I have convictions, and as an elected official, I want to do what the parents want. And I know that there's a mix of parents that want masks and don't want masks, but I see that we're looking at it as, we're trying to ban masks altogether. I was told, or my understanding, and I as well received information differently than others, that if we wore the mask, we can have schools open and we can have less quarantines. Well, there was a stomach bug that went through my youngest's class a couple weeks ago, and he got it. So we kept him home, actually kept him home for an extra day. And then the day we were gonna send him back to school, they were quarantined because somebody tested positive for COVID. And I said, well, I asked him, like, did you wear your mask? Like, was there times without a mask? And he's like, yeah, I went on the playground and at lunch. And it is affecting our children. It's affecting my children significantly. And that's why I'm advocating for parental rights. And it is a bigger picture than COVID. We're talking now about doing pool testing. So that way they're dependent on the results, we can possibly not have to quarantine as much anymore. We're talking about people who are vaccinated. Well, maybe we don't have to quarantine anymore if you've got it. Well, the goal line is still moving. Every single time we turn around, the goal line's moving. And I feel like this now, the pool testing and the vaccines, it's a carrot in front of people. I'm not trying to stir the pot, but mark my words, we're going to be talking about mandating this vaccine for our students. It's coming. I see it coming from a mile away. And I feel that we should do what's right for the students. Yes, one of the biggest things that we've done is we're cleaning the schools now. Every year before COVID, go back. I remember through the years, my coworkers would always say, well, school's opening up, cold and flu season is going to be hitting. Our schools are a petri dish and kids go to school, they get sick. That's how it works. And that's how they build their immune system. If a stomach bug went through, these masks are not preventing it from hitting our kids. So we're putting all this weight on mandates and SOPs and guidelines. It's not federal law. It's not state law. The state of Florida removed all mask mandates. They removed all these mandates and their COVID numbers are dropping significantly. You know, I'm looking at it, I can't vote for it, and it's not disrespecting the committee who's put a significant amount of time on it. It's not I'm trying not to disrespect the staff members and stuff like that. I just feel the goal line is being moved. We have carrots dangling in front of us that if we do this, we might get this. Well, they said that last year when we got to close it for 2 weeks. So I'm starting to have an issue with this, and I apologize that I am very long-winded and I throw a lot of facts and figures and statistics. And there's a lot more I'd like to say, but like I said, there's a lot of information that came to us. It's not about being pro-mask, pro-science, anti-mask, anti-science, etc. It's about the right for people to choose what's best for them. And that includes staff members, that includes parents, and even the children. My kids have asked me numerous times, Dad, what do I do? The only reason why they're not giving their teachers a hard time is because I told them not to. Because as their father, I want them to go to school. I want them to get an education and to respect their teachers. So that's why a lot of students are not complaining, is because their parents are doing what parents are supposed to do and tell them, respect your teachers. They have rules that they have to follow too. So I will stop from there, so.
Thanks, Patrick. Ange?
It's difficult for me to remember everything that I want to say. First, I'd like to point out that norovirus and rotavirus are the mechanisms by which most of our stomach bugs transfer. And those are not transmitted in the same way that our SARS viruses like COVID, like flu are transmitted. There are not vaccines available for those in the same way. So it's not completely it's not completely the same thing to draw the comparison between the two styles.
Right, yes.
And I feel like one thing that gets left out of our discussion sometimes with the value of masking universally versus not universally is the way that the mask is really the star of the show is not the way it protects you from germs in the air around you. It's the way it protects the people around you when you are unwittingly walking into a situation with germs. Like, I'm definitely getting, breathing the air around. But the actual exhalations that are like coming from my mouth into the air, that is where that mask barrier really provides your protection. So when we send all of our children into school masks and all of our staff in masks, we are protecting others who went unwillingly to school healthy from somebody else who may be ill and doesn't know. So that's where we really have the value. And I think in the face of our positivity rates being absolutely through the roof right now, where we are having a higher rate of COVID infections in our community, in our county than we've ever had before, that we are not in a position to be discussing removing that just yet.
Thank you. Jim.
Yeah. I actually, up until just fairly recently, I was expecting to cast a vote that we would make masks optional. Not always the most popular talk around my family, but I'm definitely not going to vote to go without masks until we find out what's going to happen with this new variant that's shown up. And I understand parental rights to decide what you do with your own child. But your rights stop when your child can infect my grandchild. Now, mine will all be vaccinated. They won't have to worry about it. That was my thinking up until fairly recently. The new one is the new Omicron or whatever the heck it is. Oh my gosh, I guess. And it's quite an unknown issue. And granted, hopefully we'll know more about it at the next meeting we have. It seems like the committee is thinking very strongly about having mask options in like February or March is what I'm kind of hearing, that maybe we can vote in January, February to say, and then 30 days after that. And, I want to get rid of the mask. I honestly do. But I want my grandchildren vaccinated. I want everybody's grandchildren vaccinated. I know there are people that don't think we should vaccinate, but that's a personal choice. As long as we can vaccinate and open schools safely, I'm all for it. So that's all. Thank you.
I just, I think you did briefly mention that the big holiday period and the vacations are coming up. And yes, I'm thinking about this new variant too. We all are, and what they say based on real knowledge, not just the preliminary rumors. But no matter what, even if that weren't a part of the picture, the holiday season is coming up. So I wouldn't be wanting to end this masking at this point. But I can see what you're saying, that possibly we are approaching that.
Becky?
Yes.
My comments are directed towards the people who spoke predominantly. I was gonna say something to Lindsay, but she walked out 2 seconds earlier, but that's all right. If she goes and watches it on YouTube, Lindsay's been here for every meeting since August. Has gotten up and spoken every time, which is outstanding. I might not agree with what some of the parents have to say, but everyone has their own opinion. But when it comes to the obvious that we've already said, with the cold and flu season and stuff like that, and 50+ teachers, the people teaching the kids of the parents who are, don't want to wear the mask, are the ones saying, let's keep our masks on. Not indefinitely. Nothing's 100%. There's no 100% solution to what's going on right now. Science can't do it, and sure as hell opinions can't do it. Masks don't fix it. Vaccines don't fix it, because you still get sick. You still get a flu shot every year, and it's been around since 1918. But still, nothing's 100%. And then the big misconception too always is that, you know, a school board member works on behalf of the parents. Well, you kind of do and you kind of don't. You work on behalf of with the numbers, 1,950 kids who are in the district. You cannot address the concerns of each individual, because then it would be absolutely impossible, unless it's Beverly Hills or something like that. I'm sure there are children who go to school with a gluten allergy. Do we offer gluten-free options in the cafeteria? I don't know. Probably not though, but they might be few and far between. And I just pulled that one out of my butt. There's another example here or there, but I mean, that's not addressed. Does that mean we hate kids with gluten allergies? No, you just can't fix every problem. And then, so we can't fix everything. And with the animosity of opinions of one side or the other, Matt and I have consistently voted on opposite sides of the fence. But if you ever saw us have a discussion, we're really pretty close in our general opinions on things. We just happen to vote differently. And the average American voter is a centrist. They vary, you know, a little left, a little right on one different topic or another. And it's just, you know, and it's not just here. I was home in Rhode Island over Thanksgiving and I asked about school board meetings and stuff. And they have police there. You know, we didn't have police here a couple of years ago when I started on the board. We didn't have it in my hometown. But now there's 2 or 3 because of the vocal minority who want to prove a point or whatever. And that's fine, they can do that. But I just wanted to say specifically towards the parents who think, you know, I feel bad for kids who have challenges. But again, you can't do everything for you can't accommodate every single individual's, you know, idiosyncrasies. And Veronica said back in August, all the different things that the special ed instructors are doing to try to reach their kids with the face shields and stuff like that. So they're trying, the teachers are trying. And if the ones who are in the classroom, you know, at the most risk, if you want to say that, at least in their eyes, teaching the kids, then we should try to respect their wishes. But also, we're trying to look at some sort of light at the end of the tunnel too. You know, we didn't say in August, we're done until June, masks all the time, no changes. That's why we vote every month. That's my 2 cents.
Tony.
I just wanted to check on a couple things. One, pool testing, the cost to the district would be
Zero.
zero. Okay, that's covered by funds. All right, so that's just whatever the logistics.
CDC,
Yeah.
CDC.
Logistics there. I do want to say certainly my thank you to the committee, the nurses, and certainly the teachers that are doing so much of that other frontline work. But back to the committee, just the work that you all are doing to have these, to look at, you know, the research and the science. So I appreciate that. I'm really looking at, I'm hearing a couple of things. We're still doing the universal mandate as the recommendation. It sounds like everybody universally hates masks. We all can't wait to be done. I think we're all in agreement there. It's a timeline thing. I appreciate that light at the end of the tunnel piece, Matt. I would like to see that. And I'm starting to hear that if the pool testing can shift things, but it's squeezing the balloon there, right? Then we got to go back to the distancing. And that was going to be if there was a percentage of pool testing we could look at that would then say, yeah, masks could come back or whatever. But we don't have that because the other piece moves in. I hear the idea of sort of moving the goalposts. I was so excited in the spring when the vaccines were coming out and it looked like we were shifting gears. And COVID has proved to be, things change so much so fast that you can say one thing in the afternoon and it's wrong that evening, or just different that evening. I want to believe we're going to get in front of it. The mask has been a consistent tool for us and a consistent tool for the teachers, as challenging as they are and as gross as they get. It's been a consistent tool that has worked to keep our schools open. And I did like that phrase of keeping butts in seats, because the other stuff from curriculum that the remote stuff was not, I almost want to say it's a good experiment. I think we're finding it was not the right way to go. And so I would really support simple things that are generally low risk and low cost and generally easy to do, that keep butts in seats. Thank you.
Could I share just one misnomer? I'm hearing a lot about, students arrive to school with one mask and that's their mask for the day. And that's not accurate unless they want it to be one mask for the day. We have lots of disposable masks and we often have students who come in and say, my mask is dirty, something has happened, it's gross, and they get some students get multiple masks a day. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear, that you don't think that we're forcing students to wear a mask all day. Many have multiple masks throughout the day, and some families send multiple masks each day as well. So, Kristen Martin, just the lead nurse, just so you know, she did send all of you the COVID chart that the nurses use when speaking to parents about staying home, so that you can see exactly what it is that they use for guidance. So,
Yeah, she just sent it. Yes.
So to Matt's point, when he said that Matt and I are, we're thinking the same way, but we've always voted different on this particular topic. I'm of the notion that you can change your mind, right? A lot has happened over the last month, given our data that we got from the curriculum committee, given the 12 days, the regional, the middle school was shut down in red,
Right.
given the soaring numbers throughout the county and the likelihood of it getting worse within our district, just because of the 3 foot, 6 foot issue and mask or no mask. I mean, I think I probably have a little bit of a difference of opinion today than I did last school board meeting. And I would encourage people, if you still feel that same way and you want to continue to vote the way you voted in the past, do that, but don't do it because that's the way you've always done it. So I'm just going to continue to go down that same road. I have a change of heart on the topic, especially if it's going to get us to that light at the end of the tunnel that Matt spoke of. Because if we were to vote today to not wear masks, it would probably be pretty disastrous, given what's happened at middle school over the last month.
I think coming back from Christmas, I know there's gonna be a spike. We're blindsided if we don't even realize that, because there will be a spike.
Yeah.
People will be traveling. It's gonna happen.
Oh, Angela.
The data piece, I just wanted to share that every year after our fall assessment period, I provide a report to the curriculum committee about our achievement and the trends over time. I do that again in a shorter snapshot in the winter and then a much bigger one in the spring, in June, after the spring assessment window. So the data just happens to be part of the story because we were looking at the trends over the last 2 years and we know that our learning situation changed. It's part of our annual cycle of information that we share. It was not data shared to try to sway anyone one way or another about a decision. It was just happens to be data that we share every fall, and we look for patterns and we look to try to understand the situation and clarify how we're trying to respond to the situation. I appreciate not bringing it up because that means it was valuable to you.
Hey, Angela, what were the grades most affected in that? Was it K, first, third, and sixth?
Yeah. Nice job. He still has a brain.
That's why
Okay.
Is the pool testing going to be, sorry.
That's okay.
Got your hand up.
No, I was gonna make a motion, so go ahead.
Just one quick question.
Yeah,
Is
that's fine.
the pool testing, we talked about it before, is it going to be voluntary? It's not going to be mandatory?
It's all optional. It's all.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, all of it's optional. And Teresa, you make a good point that after the holidays, we're gonna have another spike. So that's where I want to make sure I understand it right. That's where we need to be thinking about what the plan is gonna be. And if it's gonna take 30 days, 45 days, what's the time frame to consider a plan to move forward? And I think we just don't know that yet. Is that accurate? Or not?
Well, we'd like to have that push pin in, sometime the third week of January, beginning of February. That's what we spoke about, but but we'll have to wait and see after the Christmas holiday how things go. And then what have we got right around the corner? February vacation.
Right.
So
What does our Christmas vacation look like? Should we think about considering giving a few more days?
We can't,
We can't.
because we have the number of days per year we have to go to school, and they're not flexible. They're not giving us any flexibility on those days.
You would have to
On that
tack them
number.
on to the end of the school year. And at this point, given how stressed everyone is, how challenging, I think it would be really tough to ask staff, students, families to go to school the third, fourth week of June.
Hasn't started snowing yet.
Yeah.
That's days.
Veronica, and then,
I just wanted to make a motion to accept the pool testing going
Okay.
forward. That's my motion.
Only-
Just the pool, I'm starting with
We're
the
only doing
pool.
pool testing.
Just because I think the other motion is gonna be a little crazy, so let's just start with the pool
I'll
testing.
second it.
small bites.
There you go.
Okay, so we've got a
Switch it up.
motion and a second.
Yep.
Any more questions, comments?
Is it ethical for me to help out whoever is who gets the rose?
Or do you need to
put down
recuse
that
yourself
whatever?
because you do pool testing for a job?
Yeah.
You do not need to
No.
recuse yourself for that.
But that's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not gonna be doing it for us, so.
No, but I can offer TTPs assistance.
All right, then we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of pool testing? Opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can you just give me a minute?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just recording the weighted votes. So with 2 opposed, it is 11,131 in favor, 2,481 opposed. Okay,
Thank you.
mask mandate.
Mask mandate.
Gwen had a comment first, Becky.
Oh,
I did. It's okay. So I talked to a lot of students this week while I was in school, 5 days. Great, I'd love to keep that. So the general consensus I got was that they don't like wearing masks. We know that. No one likes it. I really don't like it. And speaking of wearing like multiple masks a day, I always bring 2 because I've been in a situation where mine is broke. Terrifying, especially when you don't have a second one. And it's worth it to all of the students that I talk to wear a mask and stay in school. It's the butts in seats sort of situation. I would personally rather wear a mask all day, every day, and stay in school than have to go back to what we did last year or be remote. It's not fun. It's miserable. Most people's learning suffers from it. So it's definitely worth it to a majority of the students I talk to. So.
Chad, may I ask a question that you might not know the answer to?
Sure.
Is attendance better now that we're not remote?
Attendance better?
Yeah, do fewer kids skip school and want to get out of there?
I can't give you hard numbers on it, but just based on attendance numbers now, I would say yes. We were floating around the 70-ish, 75. We got up into the 80% range, and we're obviously we've got kids that are out on quarantine, but they can still access classes remotely. So we're higher than that. I could give you harder numbers in a couple days.
No, that's fine. I
Yeah.
apologize for putting you on the spot. I was just curious. Okay. So do we want to talk about, yes, Ian.
I don't remember, do we have the exact date
that the mandatory masking pursuant to federal guidance is going to, has been extended to on the bus?
The end of March. And I just, once again, remind the board, we're at 9 o'clock. You have until 9:30, or you're going to have to vote to extend the meeting, okay?
So I would make a motion, if it's all right, to advance a motion to accept the mask mandate as recommended by.
I will second.
Second by Alyssa. Other comments or questions about, yes, Jim?
The only comment I have, if we do vote to continue this, at some point we will stop masking. I would like to see staff start working on the program instead of waiting until we decide not to mask. I'd like to see us starting now or shortly after we get back from Christmas vacation. Winter holiday, I guess it is. And then go ahead and start then, whether we've decided or not to, or if we postpone it for the next 10 years. At least we've got a program in place so that we don't have to be scrambling at the last, just, we say we want to be done with it next month. I don't want to start scrambling to do it. We need to have it now. So,
Right,
thank
no,
you.
I agree with you, Jim. That's
That's
kind of
kind of
where I
what we
was trying
talked
to,
about.
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was trying to tease out how long will that take?
That's exactly what we talked about at the committee.
Yeah, exactly.
So who would that fall to? Go ahead.
I would assume it will fall to the nursing corps and the building administrators.
Yes.
So if an addendum to the motion is that, if we vote for mask, yes or no, but regardless, empower the nurses and or building administrators to lean forward with their planning of eventually, hopefully, going without masks.
Got an amendment?
I guess so.
I don't, well,
I think I have.
I think that would be the board.
you would have
I
to,
think I have to, right?
right?
Yeah.
You would have to accept that, then Alyssa would have to accept that.
I
So,
would accept that amendment or modification to my original
Okay.
motion.
And I would second the amendment to the original motion.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else?
Anyone confused? Do I need to reword it? Okay.
You're getting better
I
at
think we
that.
got it. No, and I really like that we're really gonna start leaning in and pursuing what comes next. I think that's what we'll start doing. All right, then, all those in favor?
okay,
Opposed?
all right, so that is also 10 to 2.
Yes,
Can I
Jim,
clarify something?
yes.
I don't want to hear on Facebook that I said we're going to mandate masks for 10 years. So that was a little bit of hyperbole.
Too late, Jim, I already posted it. Apologize.
You're done.
Oh, God, they'll be picking in my house tomorrow.
I just saw the tweet.
There's
That
gonna
was
be
awesome. I love it.
flamingos on your lawn.
Oh, God, yes.
So then that leads us into the next conversation. The next conversation is about the winter sports. At the last meeting, you already had Nate here, and he did the presentation, made a recommendation, the board supported that recommendation. That included that all spectators wear masks, that we limit the number of spectators in the building. And that would be applied everywhere, not just in the gymnasium. That there would be no spectators from visiting schools, that students would wear masks at all times except during play, unless a visiting team had a higher standard in which they mandated masks, then our students would wear masks. After that decision was made, the MPA put out their recommendations. So we just wanted to make sure that tonight you were made aware of what their recommendations are, so you can decide whether any change to your plan is warranted or not. And there's some additional information on KVAC and what some of the other area schools are doing in terms of spectators and visiting spectators that Nate is going to update you on. How's that for,
Perfect, that was great.
right? Setting the stage for you.
Thanks. I think I followed the mask conversation last time too. So.
Yeah.
So thanks, Pat. She pretty much summed up what we talked about and what you decided as a school board to approve the guidelines at our last school board meeting. So I thought it'd be prudent to share with you what the recommendations were from the MPA. There were a lot of them. I'm just going to highlight what they said. They strongly recommend that school staff and students be vaccinated. They strongly recommend that schools participate in pool testing and that masks be worn indoors. Those are the three main topics for from the MPA. When we met last month, I talked to you a little bit about a spreadsheet that the KVAC had put together. There were only 4 schools that had reported or put their input on that spreadsheet at that time. So when I made my recommendations to you, I didn't have a whole lot to go by at that point in time. So now there are 28 schools in the KVAC. 25 of them have reported on that spreadsheet. And I'll give you the data with that. So, well, before I say that, those schools that had made decisions like we did, none of them, and it's worth noting, none of them had reversed their decisions on what they decided to do after the MPA made their recommendations. So masking, 13 and only 20, again, only 25 schools have reported of the 28. 13 schools are mask optional while competing. 12 schools are masks on while competing. Spectators, 17 schools of the 25 are allowing both home and away fans in some capacity. 9 of those schools are open to all with no capacity limits. 8 are open to both home and away with some capacity limitations. And 8 schools are home fans only, and that includes, we're one of those schools right now. 24 schools, well, all 24, well, actually 24 of the 25 are requiring spectators to mask at all times. There's only one of the schools that's not, and that's Lewiston. Concessions, 11 schools are offering concessions, 14 are not. The venues, so we use multiple venues, and that's where a lot of the conflicts come into play. You know, we have, of course, the high school. We also use the Kennebec, Camden Ice Vault, and we use the Kennebec Valley YMCA for swimming. So other schools use other venues as well. So some of them are remaining consistent in what they do on their own campuses and at other venues, and some are having different rules for outside venues. So for instance, they would follow the Camden Ice Vault rules of the Camden Ice Vault. And so for instance, the Camden Ice Vault, because that's our home hockey rink, they don't require masking for anybody. And there's no spectator limits, nothing like that. So some schools are saying, well, we're just going to follow the guidelines of whatever venue that might be. Okay. So 12 of only 22 had reported on this. 12 schools are having the rules apply for all the venues that they use, the outside venues included, and 10 schools are having the rules apply for the campus venues only and allowing those outside venues to follow their rules. So with that information that I have, that I've just given to you, and again, I remind you that only 4 schools had reported when I spoke to you last in November. We have had 2 middle school basketball games this week, and we had a high school basketball game last night. It was girls. And the amount of time and the amount of effort that has gone into creating a system to allow home fans only has been extremely time consuming, extremely exhausting, and somewhat expensive to do. Because now we have to hire somebody to work the door at middle school games, which we never had to do. We have to hire somebody to work the door at the ice vault, which we've never had to do. And also hire somebody to work the YMCA, which we've never had to do. So based on the fact that 17 of the 25 schools in the KVAC are allowing both home and away spectators, my request to you tonight is that we open up our facilities to all spectators based on the information that we now have.
With masks.
With masks, absolutely. Yes, with masks. And all the other recommendations would stay the same. Yes, ma'am.
Are all the other schools that are allowing both spectators, do they have a 50% capacity limit or not? It's complete.
Nine of those schools have no capacity limits. And 8 of those schools do have some sort of capacity limits, but it didn't say what they were in the spreadsheet.
So are you requesting that the board maintain the capacity limit? Or are you saying just open up our facilities and fill them with both away and home spectators?
Yes, I'm saying that's exactly what I'm asking, is that we just fill them. We would obviously stay within the capacity limits of what that facility is. But yes, just to open to everybody and not have to worry about tickets or passes or anything.
No limits per student.
Right. Yes.
How often are the sporting events filled to capacity of the building?
That's a good question. Not very often. Basketball is king in the state of Maine. We will fill our gyms when we play Coney. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
The ice vault has a capacity of 600 and some odd people. Bill Boardman, who runs the ice vault, he said he keeps track of how many fans attend. He goes back years. And the largest crowd that he ever had, I think, was 535. And that was actually a Gardner Coney ice hockey game a couple of years ago. So we don't really approach those capacity limits at the ice vault. We certainly don't get near it at the Kennebec Valley YMCA. We had 40. So the 4 games that have taken place at the middle school this year so far, we've had an average of 40 spectators per game. So we certainly have room at the middle school for plenty of spectators to come. And last night I counted 100 people at the basketball game.
This will also be the same policy for youth sports. If we adopt the policy, it'll obviously filter down.
I would assume so, yeah. And also our drama and music.
All of our co-curricular. So as we already said, right now, the middle school, they're in production, right? Tonight, they have play. If you decide to open it up to everyone, then I would say effective immediately, as early as tomorrow night and Saturday, they would be able to fill the little theater if they were able to do so.
Right.
And we happen to play Coney at home on Saturday. It's our opening game for boys basketball. So
There you go.
Jim and then Alyssa.
I was actually gonna try to make a motion.
Oh, Alyssa, what were
Just
you
a
gonna
question
do?
contractually, since you had Munzing available, are they still gonna be able to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Great.
yeah, which is just another added
Yeah.
bonus.
Great.
It's
For
great.
people that aren't local. Cool. Ready to text right?
Yeah.
I would like to move that we lift the restrictions on all co-curricular activities in the district.
Sorry, Jim.
You're excited, it's good.
Excited.
Jumping that gun.
You just reminded me, can I amend that and also to offer refreshments?
Oh, we were doing that already,
Okay.
but not in the gym, out in the
Lobby, lobby or outdoor.
So I seconded it.
Okay, so we have a motion from Jim and a second from Veronica. And it's not a conflict of interest.
Asked that already before.
All right, any further questions or comments?
This is to lift the building capacity.
Yes, so that, yes.
And allow away fans, where before we weren't allowing away fans.
All those in favor?
Great, thank you.
100%.
Thank you very much.
That's progress.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank goodness.
Thanks.
I mean, Saturday night.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Almost there.
Yes, okay, so, board chair, there's an NSBA meeting that's happening this weekend. I was going to go, but I am not going because I'm unable to get a booster until the 11th. So I'm not going there. And your board committee assignments are in your packet, and that's all I have.
Are those different? Have they been updated?
They were updated because we have new board members.
Okay.
So I just shifted
So
things
none
around.
of us should think.
Yeah.
And I just have one item tonight. This is just kind of a interesting school thing. I think it was last week, I don't know, the days all blend together. It was last week before. I received a random phone call from a woman who works for the US Department of Education. And she was calling to inquire about our American Rescue Plan funds that she is charged by the White House to look at how those funds are being expended. Of course, I'm sitting there going, oh my Lord, did we do something wrong? What? And the way we are spending our money under to reduce class sizes and to purchase some curriculum in some of our instructional work. She saw that as an exemplar. And so she's been asked by the White House to find exemplars, and she found ours in Little Gardner, Maine, to be an exemplar. She's going to forward our information to the White House, and we'll see if anything comes of it or not. But I thought that was pretty cool. And I know that there's a lot of questions about how that money is being spent. It is a lot of money. And I just wanted to share that to say, we are doing good things with it to benefit our students. So I just wanted you to be aware of it. Thought it was cool.
Thank you, Kat.
I'd like to make a motion possibly. I've been watching a lot of school board meetings, and I'd like to make a motion that after the pledge, we have a moment of silence. People can do whatever they choose in that moment.
We have a policy on the agenda, what the agenda looks like. We would need to go back, take a look at that agenda to see if it maps out the format of our meeting or not. So I don't think it's appropriate this right now to make that type of motion because it's not on the agenda. And we would need to make sure that it wouldn't conflict with the policy. If it is in policy, we just have so many policies, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I know we have an agenda policy, but I don't know if it outlines exactly the format of our meetings. Some policies do. And if so, that would have to go to policy to rework. Yeah, that's all.
I just want to know what the protocol was to mention it. So I wanted to mention it, and then maybe we can talk about it in next year.
Yeah, we would have, we talked at a future time. Yeah.
Make a motion for executive session.
Anybody need a
Second.
2-minute comfort break?
Yes.
Stand up.
No, not if we
For
can move
nature.
quickly. Are we coming back in? Is that everyone? Yes, all?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
There's nothing that we were gonna go back into session. Terry just asked.
No, we're not coming back into session.
If you're not, I'll
Oh, you will.
Did I? No. Okay.